Hello and welcome. My name is McMahon and I'm glad to have you here. Welcome if it's the first time you've come to see one of my videos. If you're a regular visitor, welcome back. Thank you very much for coming back. So today I'm going to ask a very simple question that you might be either shaking your head about, or you might be saying, oh my God, thank God, I need to get an answer to this question. And the question is, are you in a relationship with a narcissist? And believe it or not, I get people messaging me all the time in my Facebook groups and from emails saying, I don't know if the person I'm with is a narcissist. I have my suspicions, but I'm not sure. And it's not just the romantic relationships, there are others. So basically, narcissists come in all shapes and sizes, and they affect both men and women. And there are many men who are narcissists and many women who are narcissists. And they are equally evil, nasty people because they follow the same playbook. So you could have a narcissistic mother or father or a husband or wife. Now, if you have and you know all this, you know that living with one is a nightmare. It's a hell on earth existence. And what I always say to people is, you really need to learn all you can about this insidious, virulent form of psychological and often physical abuse, so that you can learn how to get out of the relationship. If you're already in a relationship and you've been in one a long time, you'll very much be familiar with all the hallmarks of what a narcissist is. You'll know all the jargon, you'll understand the hoovering, the gaslighting, the trauma bonding, and so on. But new people are finding out every day and hearing about narcissism and narcissistic personality disorder for the first time. So it's for people like that that I'm doing this video. And as I said, I have people coming to my Facebook groups all the time and messaging me saying, this is all new to me, what the heck, So that's why I'm doing this one. Now, pretty much all narcissistic traits in a person with narcissistic personality disorder or who has all the traits are very, very nasty. Now, basically, they have no conscience, they have no empathy or feelings for anyone else but themselves. And they have a very vicious, destructive part to their personalities that is particularly damaging and dislikable. They want to destroy their target. And it makes very little sense, but it's what they do. They start out, love bombing you in the case of a romantic relationship, and then they start to devalue you, belittle you, put you down, and they start to make you feel like a worthless person. And then they might discard you if you don't have the sense and the presence of mind to get out and discard them. So they might discard you, and they still want to flaunt, their new relationship in your face and post all over social media and make you jealous. And it makes no sense to a normal person, because a normal person would just kind of want to move on and get on with a new relationship, but not a narcissist. They want to just hurt you and keep on hurting you, even though you've done nothing wrong. So narcissists can show up, as I've said, in any relationship. It's particularly bad in romantic relationships, but it can be, with children. You can have children who turn out to be narcissists, who don't want to know you, or who become the spitting image of their narcissistic parents. It could be your own parents, it could be friends, bosses, co-workers. They can basically be anywhere. And the more you learn about them, the more they seem to just come crawling out of the woodwork. Now, as I've said, most men are painted villains, but female narcissists, there are an abundance of them out there, and they're just as vile and toxic, if not more so than the male narcissists. So the most important thing for you to understand, if you've been involved, or you still are, with a narcissist, is that narcissistic personality disorder is one of 10 personality disorders listed in the DSM-5, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of the American Psychiatric Association, and it's a category B cluster of mental disorders. So if you're very new to all this and you have no idea about this, you know, what NPD is, narcissistic personality disorder, NPD for short, I'm going to outline for you now the 9 key traits that come from the DSM-5 that are used to determine if a person has NPD or not. Now, in general, NPD is defined as comprising a pervasive pattern of grandiosity in fantasy or behavior, a constant need for admiration, and a lack of empathy. And I think lack of empathy is the wrong word altogether, because I think it's way more than lack. Generally, this is beginning by early adulthood, and it's present in a variety of contexts. And there are, as I said, nine key traits, and only 5 of them actually need to be present, you know, ticked off for a diagnosis of NPD to be administered, basically. So the first one is a grandiose sense of self-importance. And the second one is a preoccupation with fantasies of unlimited success, power, brilliance, beauty, ideal love. You know, that's the kind of person where everything has got to be perfect. They think they're perfect. It's just really unrealistic. They feel they deserve the best of everything in life, regardless of how good or not they are at anything. They also have a belief that he or she is special and unique and can only be understood by or should associate with other very special or high status people or institutions. Another trait is the need for excessive admiration. And the next one is a sense of entitlement. The next one that is particularly vile and applies to all of them is that they are interpersonally exploitative, and their behavior leaves you in no doubt of that over time. Lack of empathy is the next one, as we've said. Another one, maybe not as well known, is that they have a strong feeling of envy of others, or a belief that others are envious of them. And the final one is a demonstration of arrogant and haughty behaviors or attitude to other people. And that comes from their ideas, their grandiose ideas that they're so superior and above everyone else. So you might see this behavior. It shows up quite often when they have to deal with people like shop staff or restaurant staff who they feel are just beneath them. So they can be very disdainful and derogatory, if not outright rude. So that's a big one to look out for if you ever spot that. Now, as I've said, for an NPD diagnosis, only 5 of those traits need to be present. And I'm thinking, you know, even if you spot 4 of those, you could very well be dealing with a narcissist. And all of those traits combine to make this person very, very nasty, because they have no conscience or empathy or feelings for anyone but themselves. You know, their main goal is just to destroy people, because it's their lifeblood to get their narcissistic supply. It's all that matters to them. Now, NPD is on a spectrum. Yes, and there are different types of NPD, personality disorders, people. There are overts, coverts, although I think they are all covert, regardless of whether they are overt, malignant, cerebral, somatics, regardless of what type. I think the form of abuse they carry out on people is all covert. And the whole concept of being a covert, if you look at it, dig into it, is that they want to keep it hidden from themselves and from everyone else. But of course they can't, because it's part of their personality. They want to hurt the people close to them by putting them down and making them feel small, because in doing that, they make themselves feel bigger and better. It's very, very complicated and extremely toxic. So, you know, we all have a bit of narcissism, a bit of healthy narcissism, which is about, you know, self-preservation, a little bit about our own egos. And I don't mean the massive narcissistic ego up here, but just generally, you know, that ego of who we are. But narcissism, when it gets to the serious, the narcissistic personality disorder level of narcissism, is not healthy. And I've had people in my group come up and say, oh, but everyone has narcissism. Why are you labeling? Please do me a favor, go do some research, because comments like that really get my back up, because it just shows a complete lack of understanding of what it means to be on the spectrum. So we're all people have a little bit of narcissism, which is, as I said, healthy, but to have narcissistic personality disorder means you're way over here on the end, where you have at least 5 of these nasty 9 traits, and you are a toxic person, and you are going to be the person who destroys everyone who comes into your life. And I see evidence of this destruction, emotional, psychological, physical, even financial, every single day in my groups. I have 3 Facebook support groups, one for men, one for women, and a mixed group that's all about parenting. And you see the destruction they wreak. Even, you know, their own children aren't safe. They are alienating. Parental alienation is huge. And I think the majority of people behind parental alienation, there's no statistics on this, it hasn't been studied, tracked or anything, but my personal belief is that the majority of these people are narcissists, and they deliberately alienate the parent from the children because they are narcissists, because they are selfish in the extreme. Okay, run over. So the NPD disordered person, the narcissistic personality disordered person, have all these very, very negative traits. And at the center of it all, the only thing that matters to them is themselves and their narcissistic supply. Now, there have been some studies that suggest they're addicted to dopamine, which is like heroin to an addict, but they also make you addicted to them in a process of all the love bombing that leads to what's known as trauma bonding. And again, if you're new to all this, do check out my video on trauma bonding. It's one of many, many videos I have here in my channel to help you understand more about the whole process. Now, another question I've been asked that's come up in my group, and pretty much everything I talk about has come up in my groups or with people I work with, all research I've done, it's all from my ongoing life of understanding the personality disorder that is NPD, and from, you know, to help people to recover and working with people to help them recover. So a question that's come up that can confuse some people is narcissistic personality disorder a mental order? And there actually is sometimes confusion about whether NPD is a mental disorder or a personality disorder. So I just want to clarify my understanding here and set the record straight so that you know exactly where I'm coming from whenever, which I do frequently, whenever I refer to NPD as a mental disorder. So NPD is an extreme form of pathological narcissism. Pathological by definition, it means or is involving or caused by a mental illness. And NPD made its first appearance as a mental health diagnosis in the DSM-5, which I mentioned earlier, in 1980. So technically, it's classed under the broader umbrella of mental disorders. However, it's subcategorized under the cluster B personality disorders. Now, in addition to that, there is some evidence in brain science and neuroscience that narcissists' brains are different from normal people's brains. So this means that you are dealing with a person who has a mental illness, albeit they are generally very high functioning, very intelligent, very capable, and to look at them, you wouldn't ever know there was a thing wrong with them. They generally, particularly the narcissists who are the romantic type, will initially beguile you with their charm. You know, it doesn't have to be romantic though. It could be someone you meet at work. It could be someone who befriends you, and they are just so charming and they just make you feel so good about yourself. They use these same tactics. So it's a form of love bombing, although it's not the romantic type. They're still schmoozing you to get you, to get you into their confidence, to get you thinking, oh wow, this person's so great to be around and I feel so good when I'm around this person. So it's like they get their hooks into you, but they are getting ready to suck the lifeblood out of you. And I've worked with 2 clients recently who've had friends who were narcissists who slowly and systematically just made them feel like the lifeblood was slipping away from them. And to the point that they decided they had to get help, and they reached out to me, and thank God that they did, and we've been able to work through it all and help them to release it. But this is what they're like. So neither of those 2 clients had been involved romantically with a narcissist, but they still got their world turned upside down. They were emotionally very fragile. And this is the damage narcissists can do. You don't have to fall in love with one for this to happen, believe me. And the main reason is narcissists are very, very good at charming you. And they may be overtly charming and very charismatic. Some of them are, the overt types particularly. But there's another type, the vulnerable narcissists, completely different story. There's something about them that makes you feel kind of sorry for them, that makes you want to take care of them. And they start to swallow up your whole life just as cleverly, but you have no idea this is going on. Now, of course, they can also charm you into falling in love by the whole romantic love bombing thing that I've talked up and down about. I have a book about the top 50 red flags, and I think love bombing is number 4. That happens in the early stages of a relationship. And during that time, they will learn as much about you as they possibly can. They will show lots and lots of, compassion and understanding. And it's really bizarre because they don't actually have that, but they're very good at mirroring you. They mirror people and they feed back what they're seeing, which is how they create this amazing bond with you very early on. What happens with the love bombers, the love bombing narcissists, is that they always have a hidden agenda, because ultimately they know they can't sustain relationships. What they want to do in the beginning is learn as much about you as they can, so they can log all this information away in their minds to use as ammunition against you when they get to the devaluing stage, which they always do. And that's when they turn on you, and you're at a complete loss to understand why are they behaving like this. What the hell's happened? What have you done wrong? What have you done to deserve this? Why have they changed so radically? Where's the stunning, gorgeous person that you fell in love with and who supposedly was madly in love with you too? What the hell has happened? And you can be left reeling from shock when this happens. Now, the entire cycle of narcissistic abuse is extremely complex, and it can lead you to the brink of emotional and often physical exhaustion. It can even lead to suicide in extreme cases. And it's even more difficult if you happen to have family members who are narcissists and you're too young to leave, or you're stuck in a marriage, let's say, and you can't get out. And I know I always say get out if you can, but at the same time I acknowledge there are situations for many, many people out there where they simply can't, or at least they can't right now. So then it becomes very, very damaging, very, very toxic. And it's very important that you learn some coping mechanisms if you are in this type of a situation until such time as you can get out, because it can help you to literally retain your sanity. So how do you recover? For example, if you're in the situation now, I always recommend learning Grey Rock. Learn Grey Rock so that you know how to detach emotionally from what's going on with the narcissist. If you can get help from a therapist, from a support group, do what you can to get that support, because knowing you're not alone is a huge part of just you feeling, understanding, you know, I'm not alone. This isn't just happening to me. There are thousands of people all over the world, hundreds of thousands, unfortunately, all over the world who are going through the same thing. So connecting with a group, get talking to some other men or women who are going through what you're going through, so that you get a sense of solidarity, that you're not alone. So that is critical. Do the grey rock, absolutely critical. And if you can, get a therapist. But ultimately, my goal for you is always that you get out of these toxic relationships, because it is not where you belong and you will never be happy. Now, the journey to healing can be a very long one. You know, if you discover someone you've been married to that is a narcissist, there's a huge amount of shock and betrayal and stuff to process. You just got to give yourself time to come to terms with it, to learn all about it and start to process it for yourself. You know, the whole journey to healing, it goes through several stages. And there are so many opinions on how many stages there are. You know, I've read quite a lot of books, I've read blogs, group posts, you know, done tons of research. And there are so many different opinions of how many stages there are. You know, some compare it to Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's 5 stages of grief, where you have denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. All of those can come into play, not necessarily in that order. It can happen, you know, in any order. And there may be many other factors that come into place. Some people sit in denial for a very long time. Other people immediately get into explosive anger that they've been duped, and other people go into a kind of a state of quiet numb shock that they just don't know where to go with it. So it's different for everyone, which is why it's so important that you understand it and you reach out and get the support that you need to help you figure it out and break through it, because there absolutely is healing on the other side of narcissistic abuse. I always want you to know that. You know, you will go through a number of stages before you come out the other side, and you for sure can be healed. You may not be, in fact, you won't be the person you were before, because when you go through something like that, it does change you forever. You become actually stronger, wiser, more knowledgeable because of the pain you've suffered. That is not to say I would wish it on anyone, because I wouldn't. But it is what it is. But you can learn and grow from it. Now, if you get nothing from watching this video, other than that knowledge that you can heal, then take that and treasure it like a little pearl of wisdom. And especially important if you are stuck in a relationship and you can't get out because of, you know, children commitments, business commitments, whatever the reason is, you know, just take that pearl of wisdom to yourself and start saying to yourself right now, I can heal, I will heal. And start believing it. No matter when you can get out, no matter when it's starting, saying it and believing it is the start of healing. And the healing recipe that's going to help you the most will depend on where you are in your journey and your journey to recovery. And I work with people all the time, and they are at different stages, so they need different type of help from me. But there's always a way. So I help them navigate. Okay, where are you now? What do we need to do for you? This is what you need to do and understand, and this is what we need to do to help you feel immediately better and get moving on. So just understand that you absolutely can heal. Find the help that you need, and know that thousands of other people have healed, and so can you. Now, when it comes to the kind of abuse that you have suffered or you're still suffering, pretty much all narcissists, I think, are covert and malignant. So you always need to know the signs to look out for in the early stages, because let's say you're not in a relationship anymore, but you don't want to end up with a narcissist again. And believe it or not, it's really common to go from one narcissistic relationship, to be married to someone or to living with someone or have been with them for years, to break up and go straight into another one. And it's really quite You know, a lot of people think, oh, if that happened to me, I would never let that happen again. I would be absolutely sure. But it's not how it works. Until you understand the complex dynamics of what's going on for you at a deep subconscious level and why you've attracted that person, you are very likely, even though you know how bad they are and how abusive and all of that, you're still very likely to walk straight into another narcissistic relationship. I've had loads of people in my group and I've worked with who've had 3, 4 or more narcissistic relationships. Now, if you are new to a relationship and you're not sure if the person's a narcissist and you're thinking, oh, well, I must give him or her a bit of a chance, I want you to really understand what you're letting yourself in for if you stay with a narcissist, because believe me, there's never any happy ending. So in my next video, I'm going to talk about just how bad narcissistic abuse gets. So if you're in doubt and you really want to know more, I recommend that you tune in to my next video and watch that one. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again soon. Appreciate you being here. Thank you.